Hello, everyone, and welcome to week 11. Week 11 already. Sorry, I'm going to crack a Coke. I should have done that beforehand. No tea this morning. Coke for some reason. Anyway, welcome to week 11. Week 11 of 14. So after this week, there's only 3 weeks of content left, and there's Thanksgiving break and final exams. So I'm going to tell you a secret. Shh, don't tell anyone. I'm going to open the final exam sometime right around the beginning of Thanksgiving break, and you have between then and December, whatever it is, 5th or something, to complete the exam. So you'll have a long window to take the exam. Anyway, let's kind of talk about what's going on. This week we have Chapter 7, which is clinical documentation and reporting. Next week we have Chapters 8 and 9. Then there's 10, 11, 12. There's a test in there, and we're done. So one of the frustrating things about this semester has been that whole log out thing inside of the assignments in the EHR. So the publisher is somewhat aware. They're disagreeing that it happens, even though I've showed them videos of it happening. They're like, oh, we can't figure that out. So what I've done is I've gone in and removed, starting in Chapter 7, I removed the points, like the last whatever question or however it grades it, that says that you need to log out. So when you get to the point where it says log out, don't log out, just hit submit, and the grades will be correct, hopefully, starting week 7. I'm slowly going back through the previous assignments and adding points back in to all the assignments for where you lost points for something that's not your fault. So let's move on then, right? Let's talk about Chapter 7 in week 11. Did I say it was week 11 or did I say week 7? But Chapter 7, clinical documentation reporting. So clinical documentation and reporting is one of the reasons that we do informatics, right? So informatics is information exchange. That's infomatics, something like that. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. So informatics. And so clinical documentation forms the basis of what we do. We use this for billing and some demographics and stuff like that too, but most of what we do in informatics is taking care of information about the patient. So let's talk about this, right? So clinical documentation, also known as clinical inputs, that's the stuff that we put in. Structured data is like if there's a database or like a spreadsheet, right? And it's checks in the boxes, or there's a spot for blood pressure. Unstructured data is just like a block where you write stuff. It's easy to search structured data because I know go to this column and I can find everybody's blood pressure. It's hard to read a bunch of notes in unstructured data. So we try to structure as much data as possible. The problem with this is that structured data puts barriers around what people can do. So there's always going to be unstructured data, and we don't want to force people into just, I'm clicking boxes because I'm supposed to click boxes. So while structured data is most of what we do, we still have to always allow unstructured data because there's always going to be something weird in medicine. There's always going to be some weird something that a person has without the normal symptoms that will have atypical symptoms and whatever. All right, so data collection, that's how we put data in. And we have manual and automated data collection. So manual data collection is a person typing in. Automated data collection, there's 2 pieces to this now, even though the book only says one. One that the book says is it's stuff that's copied over. So someone manually entered it, and now it's been copied over to a new chart, a new page, a new something. Also, some automated data collection now is coming from automated processes. The EKG machine and the blood pressure and all that is actually feeding there's not just numbers on the screen anymore, it's feeding it directly into the patient's chart, which can be good and bad. So if you've ever been in a hospital, you're like, oh yeah, it'd be great if that machine always just spit the number right into the chart and it's done. The problem is, what happens if that person takes off the blood pressure cuff because they're walking to the bathroom? That's when it takes their blood pressure. It shows a blood pressure of, I don't know, if you take off a cuff, it'll show 0, or sometimes it'll show like 40 or not. I mean, it'll just show some wacky reading. And if that gets into the patient's chart and no one says, and that's just part of their record, then later on we're like, why did their blood pressure drop? We have no reason why this happened. So you have to be careful with automated data collection when it's completely automated from machines. So the H&P, that's the history and physical. That's pretty straightforward. I'll let you guys read through that. The physical exam is what we find when we poke on people. moving forward. Sorry if I make you seasick while I'm doing all my scrolling. When we're creating EHRs, and you've already had to do a template, that was back in chapter 3, we try to template as much as possible so we can have as much structured data. We try to make it the templates in an order that makes sense. So if care providers always do an examination in the same order, we try to put that template in the same order. So for adults, when we're doing general physical exam, we start head to toe. So we try to put things in that order. If we're doing children, believe it or not, we go toe to head. So we put them in that order. And the reason we do it in children is because if you start reaching at like a 3-year-old's face, they're going to freak out. If you start playing with their feet and then, they get comfortable with you, examining them, you can get up to their head and they're not crying and screaming by the time you do that. So adults head to toe, children feet to head. Let's move on. So you can see there's just different things. So nursing documentation, believe it or not, so nurses form the largest work group. There are more nurses than any other person, any other group in the healthcare field. And nursing clinical documentation is most of what goes into charts. So a doctor may come in, see a patient once, twice a day, write some notes, tell people what to do, but most of what happens in the chart is nursing clinical documentation. Other people write in the charts, respiratory therapists, phlebotomists, lab people, pharmacists, paramedics, whatever. But nursing documentation is most of what's in the chart. Progress notes, that's just when we're writing how they're doing. Usually a progress note, for the most part, is structured within a little bit of unstructured at the bottom. There's different types of that. You can write one or you can do a cloned one where you copy everything over from the previous note. There's a problem with cloned notes. What happens if you copy everything over and don't change or update it? Then you've missed information, and that's a problem. Let's see here. E-prescribing. Oh, e-prescribing. That's something that's gone into effect during your lifetime. The idea behind e-prescribing was to reduce medication errors between doctors who have notoriously terrible handwriting and pharmacists who sometimes can't read the doctor's handwriting and would, put out the wrong drug because they thought that's what it said. Also, it's there to reduce fraud, right? It's harder to break into a e-prescribing system and send yourself some narcotics prescriptions than it is to break into a doctor's office, steal a prescription pad, and write yourself a bunch of narcotics prescriptions. So e-prescribing was there to simplify the process. Also, that way you don't have to take this piece of paper to the pharmacy, get it filled. The doctor can just send that prescription directly to the pharmacy, and then maybe by the time you get to the pharmacy, it's already ready. So it was meant to simplify things. There are some interesting little tidbits, and then I'm going to let you read through the benefits and the downfalls of e-prescribing. It's not perfect. Controlled substances, especially, we want to be very careful when we're prescribing controlled substances, even more and more. When e-prescribing first came out, you could not do controlled substances via e-prescribing. Now you can for most of them. There's still a few that have to be actually handwritten. All right, I think that's all I want to babble on. I think the rest of the chapter is pretty straightforward. If you have any questions about it, please let me know. If not, see you next week. Have a great day.